Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis.
This one is written in the loving memory of one of the Nyabingi elders, Bongo Kasha. Hot fire, hot fire. Aya Jaja earthquake. All them to shut them down. Rastamana Jaja earthquake.
It's Heroes Day in Jamaica.
All them to shut them down. Rastamana Jaja earthquake. All them to shake all the wicked down. Not well, yeah. Anything we do, I say, cause so much eruption. Anytime they see us, they want to create confusion. They hate us cause we're trampling their wickedness. They cannot seem to take I and I righteousness. But for Jah glory's sake, we still are treading. We're protected by Jah holiness. Yeah. Beware for the Rastaman come with the earthquake to shake the wicked down. I and Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake them down. Rastaman Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake all the wicked down. I am big man earthquake. All them to shake them down. Rastaman Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake all the wicked down. Not well, yeah. The thunders of Jah they hear when Bingy drum is beating. See the heathen heart a quake when I and I start our chanting. We're chanting of the serpent out of everything. Everything that is of Jah and of all I bring is glory for Jah and exaltation in our playing and singing. Yeah. Beware for the Rastaman a come with the earthquake to shake the wicked down. Higher, Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake them down. Rastaman Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake all the wicked down. I have been given a earthquake. All them to shake them down. Rastaman Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake all the wicked down. Now you begin from the east on to the west, from the north on to the south, from the depths on to the heights, from Timbuktu to Timbuktu. We're gonna shake them down, gonna shake them down, shake them down. Naya Jaja earthquake. All them to shake them down. Rastaman Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake all the wicked down. Now you're bringing on a earthquake. All them to shake them down. Rastaman Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake all the wicked down. Naya Jah Jah earthquake. All them to shake them down.
Is the intention to steal our culture, the good for the boss buy and sell. Humble yourself, my little one. Humble yourself, my children. Humble yourself. Oh, my brother, while you're on island, me loving Africa, love my nation, my interpretation, love universal. Loving Africa, loving America, loving Canada. Whoa. about your love.
Giving thanks and praises for the forces of life. Giving thanks and praises for health. Giving thanks and praises for the consciousness that motivates and enables. Greetings, Eli Rastafari. Heroes Day in Jamaica. Healing up all ones and ones, giving thanks and praises for being able to maintain consciousness. And healing up all the ones on the island of Jamaica, celebrating today, the day in October, where we call it Heroes Day. It's a public holiday, which means the people don't have to be engaged in any work. It's a time of reflection and some level of celebration. But as usual, you know, Jamaica, we are an island that we celebrate as often as we can, simply to break from the monotony of slavery. And so every opportunity we get, we celebrate. But we're at a point in time where empty celebrations become a waste of energy and waste of time. And so within our celebrations, we reflect intellectually and psychologically as to how we can advance our cause in the present dispensation. How do we advance our lifestyle? How do we upgrade our quality of living? How do we upgrade our quality of thinking? So this period that we are celebrating, month of October, heritage and culture, the heroes are brought into the focus today. And the government, in its own way, hands out these certificates of honor and recognizing individuals who have contributed to the social life of Jamaica, economic, political, all aspects of life. And so they are given these titles of status and they are congratulated. There is a point within the level of congratulations where you move to higher and higher levels of status. And the highest level that you can get for recognition from a country, for example in Jamaica, is to be recognized as a hero, a national hero. So they've organized a hierarchy that the highest level of heroship that we can get to is a national level. But of course, heroes appear in all aspects of our life, all the various disciplines of our life. People find heroes, because heroes are really individuals. Oftentimes individuals who are primarily brave, Because that's a very key feature of a hero. The hero must be brave. And there must be some obstacle or some challenge in which a hero must overcome. Now, heroes appear in all aspects of our life, as I said earlier. There are cultural heroes, like the ones we tend to celebrate at this point in time. There are religious heroes, or persons who are elevated in status within Bible stories. There are sporting heroes. There are political heroes, military heroes. In other words, heroes can appear anywhere, as long as the conditions are suitable and the individual has the courage and oftentimes a certain level of vision. So, even within your community, there are individuals who one can classify as heroes based on what they have done for the community with resources or whatever it is. So, hero is a term that is out there. And as a youth, you read about heroes and you attach yourself emotionally to these heroes. There's an emotional attachment, oftentimes with their heroics, what they have done. So there are movie heroes, all dimensions. But the ones that we're going to look at primarily in this metamorphosis are the ones that are established by the society Jamaica. The cultural heroes, the political heroes, the heroes that have reached to the level now of national hero. And what is it that these heroes supposed to symbolize? What is the symbolic meaning behind these heroes, their actions? Because the society, of course, we know have symbols. Symbols are created to motivate and inspire. And as a country now celebrating within this emancipation period, our symbols of emancipation are not really too pronounced, but we have a lot of symbols of independence. The symbols of emancipation, if we really want to check the present dispensation, we have one thing that stands out: Emancipation Park. So that is supposed to symbolize a sacred type of space. A space that we have reverence for because of the work and the sacrifices that our heroes had to undergo. And so the place that we create to worship in a certain kind of way our heroes is our park called Emancipation Park. So it's supposed to be something that has reverence, something that is highly respected, something that our heroes, worthy to be alive, should feel very comfortable and should feel very proud to walk within the walls of that park. So before we get to the symbols now, I wanted to speak a little bit about the heroes that Jamaica embrace. The political heroes, the social political heroes that we have created. And we have created these heroes. Oftentimes there's a cry that more should be put to the list. Oftentimes there's a debate as to who next should be given the status of national hero. But for now, let us look at the ones that we have. I want to look, to begin with, at this parish, Portland. I'm going to look at the representation of Portland. I'm going to spend a little bit of time just looking at the power of the female hero. And why the female hero is called a heroine, I am not sure, because heroin is a drug. Heroin is a dangerous drug. Why shouldn't the female hero be called a shero? What is this heroine thing? Word, sound, and power. Metamorphosis. there, the Metamorphosis is here. Metamorphosis is live. Dr. Iman Blak in studio with engineer Cassidy, Sir Fly. Heroes Day in Jamaica. Metamorphosis, exploring the notion of our heroes. We'll also continue to examine the corruption that has been exposed in the various ministries. Previous program, I've been speaking a bit about the energy ministry, the education ministry, the justice ministry, and in this metamorphosis, coming under the scrutiny, will be the Ministry of Culture. Yeah, and I will look into the Ministry of Culture. We're not necessarily going to look for corruption in terms of that rotten type of thing that we find in the other ministries, but we're going to look for degenerate behavior, attitudes that are not progressive to the upliftment of culture. We're looking to the Ministry of Culture because in Jamaica, the black population, 94%, is of a particular culture. Does the ministry cater to that culture? Or does the ministry cater to the culture of the British and the Americans? Where does the culture of African people, black people, rest within this ministry? Because this could really be the key link to the liberation of the brain, mind, power of the people. Not in the economics, nor in the education, nor in energy. But the link to our liberation may really rest in the culture ministry. So I will speak to that ministry that has been given three powerful industries. Energy, we think, is the key to run a society. But for a society to be sustainable amongst the people, within this type of population, we have to pay attention to culture, entertainment, and sport. It just so happens that these three powerful areas fall under one ministry. Something needs to be straightened out. So I will look into that to see if we can find a prescription to our own issues. But on the topic of heroes, also wanted to touch up a little bit before the program done on this ego psychology that I raised in the last program, that the black man need to reach the point where we can signal the death of the ego. Can we bring the ego to its ending, that we can liberate the essence, which is the spirit? So those are the things I want to deal with before the program is through. But forward now to the notion of the heroes and the sheroes, because I don't really like the notion of the heroine being the female hero, because Word, Sound and Power tells us that the heroin is a dangerous drug. So we're going to use the word shero. I will use the word shero for the female hero. So on this plantation, Jamaica, the government, meaning the two political parties, have come together to develop and identify a set of individuals who they think the nation should embrace as national heroes. And the very first one is a female. Well, that's not true. The first one is a man, but he's not the first in terms of time. In other words, the Jamaican government has given us Marcus Garvey as the first national hero. But within historical time, they have also named others who lived before Marcus Garvey. And so a man like Sam Sharp and a person like Taki and Nani, these are individuals who lived before Marcus Garvey. So when we talk about the heroes along the historical line of time, we have to check Nani and Taki even before we look into Marcus Garvey. So I'm beginning the examination of our heroes and sheroes by just looking a little bit at Nani and the complaint and the cry of my colleague here at Size FM about how Nani has been ignored, and the cry for a statue of Nani to be put in the town square for all the various reasons articulated. But I'm saying to the item now, speaking about the end product is one thing. Overstanding the steps to get to the end product is another thing. And knowledge is a liberating force. And part of what is problematic with Nani in this region is the lack of knowledge about Nani. And I challenge the information put forward by the British, because our education system, which is a British organized system, gives us the history of Nani through the eyes of the British. And as an African, as a black man, I am uncomfortable looking through our European eyes at Nani. So I want them to begin to try to develop another perspective of how to look at Nani. I'm going to look at Nani through some non-English eyes. What does that mean? All right? Who is this woman? Where is she from? And the records show that Nani is a West African queen. West meaning particularly from the land of Ghana. What we also know, and what they are willing to tell us, is that Nani was of the Moors. There is a Catholic school in Kingston, Harborview, but in particular, it's called St. Benedict's. But it's not just St. Benedict's name, it named St. Benedict's the Moor. Because Benedict was a Moor. So here we are now in Portland, and they have told us about Nani of the Moors. But they have not told us much at all, if anything, about who were the Moors. No, Moor is not M-O-O-R-E, you know. It's not an English family now we're talking about named the Moors, you know. So I want to just correct the spelling right away. Moore is not M-O-O-R-E. That's how you spell, like Roger Moore, movie star. Is an Englishman that named Moore. Nani was not English. Nani was an African woman. And where Nani come from, and the people that Nani come from were called the Moors. M-O-O-R-S. Now that's what should be taught in primary school. In Jamaica primary schools, teaching about our first female hero. You would think that they would tell you about the history of this woman and where she come from, instead of telling you that she just fight the British and catch bullet with her bottom. We know we need to have some knowledge that is substantial and that can be verified and double checked. So the critical issue now is that Nani was a Moor. And we spell Moor M-O-O-R. And you look around in Portland, and when you're looking at the signs that point to Moortown, you see M-O-O-R-E. So what do you say? Big deal. It's only an E. No, it's not just only an E. We're talking about identity. Nani was not a M-O-O-R-E. She was no English woman. Nani was a queen from West Africa. She came from the Moors. Now, who are the Moors? M-O-O-R-S. Well, in a brief, the Moors were the African people who controlled and ruled West Africa. Not only did they rule West Africa as a people, they moved their empire over into Spain. And the Moors ruled Spain for over 700 years. Same European country called Spain. The same place where Columbus and Isabella and Ferdinand rise upon. Those places were ruled by the Moors. And what is very important to know about the Moors is that the Moors had a religion. And the religion of the Moors was not Christian. The Moors were not Christian. Nani was not a Christian. Nani was Islam. The Moors were high in the Islamic culture. The Moors took their culture into Spain, opened and established universities. We're talking about high knowledge now, you know. We're talking about science and technology. We're talking about cartographers, people who could have read map and design maps. So When Spain eventually organized the Columbus expedition, a great portion of the navigators and the crew were Moors, Africans who were Islamic. Now, when you read English history, they don't tell you about the religion of Nani, because the English were Anglicans, and the English come with their own religion to impose upon the island. So the struggle now between the British and the Moors wasn't just a political struggle, it was a religious war. The same war we see happening today between Christians and Muslims. In this context in Jamaica, the Muslims were superior. The Muslims always knew that they were superior to the Christians because the Muslims took culture into Spain and brought civilization to the Spanish. So the Muslim would never bow. There's no way the marooned Africans would bow to the inferior Spanish or English. And we need to deal with the word maroon as we talk about heroes. Because the marooned term doesn't refer to a race of people. Maroon is not a race of people. Maroon is a term that applies to Africans who refused to be part of the plantation society and Africans who came in as free black man and woman. The English not giving us this version of story. The English telling us what they want to tell us because they want to look like the heroes. The heroes within this context are the Africans, the Moors, the intelligent people who brought civilization to Spain. Now, in Jamaica, Nani is just regarded as Nani. There is no statue of any significance of Nani. And so the cry for a statue now will not be manifested by those who are part of the British Empire, those who support Christianity and Catholicism. What is really required to really bring that statue to reality is to have the ability to identify first and foremost who are going to be the sculptors. Who are the sculptors who are going to manifest this statue? How are you going to organize funding? Can you generate a 12-foot statue of Nani? Because there is a tremendous statue in Senegal, a statue that represents liberation. We have to begin to think big when we think about liberation and our heroes. So we need a statue of Nani, not on top of a clock necessarily. There's no reason to fight for that space. The energy should be put in galvanizing the resources to build the statue. We have people in Portland who are artists and sculptors. That could be a project for the parish to build a statue of Nani, 12 feet high. Location could be identified later. But we have to give the females and the women a chance to recognize the dignity and the glory of this female hero. And we have to open up the door to the consciousness to know that it is a religious war. And that the Christians, between the Catholic and the Anglicans, making sure that there's no memory of Islam here. Them stamping out what them call the alien religion. But you see, Islamic people are unafraid to die. The people of Islam are not afraid to die. Christians are afraid to die. So within the context of a daily struggle, the Christian will put up with all kind of arms out because the Christian is afraid to put the life on the line for a cause. The Muslim will die for a cause. The Christian is unwilling to die for a cause. The Christian is willing to live because the hope is for eternal life. So there's a stagnation amongst the population here when it comes to action. Nani is a hero. Nani is a shiro. But how many persons are willing to adopt the religion of Nani? Metamorphosis. Yeah, it's a meditation of the hearts that counts. A man can live for more than 100 years. Yes, more than 100 years and a score. But the Roman philosophy tells us that we have 70. So everything wrap up in the 70 years and we're just dead. So by 35 we're middle age and we're whole, and 50 we're whole age and we're just dead off. That's not the way it ought to be. So let us again reflect on our celebration of heroes here in Jamaica. And how did we arrive at these heroes? Who defined these individuals as heroes? And should we not try to emulate heroes? Should we not try to be like heroes? Since they are heroes, they are worshipped almost. Should we all take on the attitudes and the philosophies of our heroes? Why not? Why and should we not worship our heroes in that kind of way? So we're looking at Nani and we're looking at the term maroon. Because you hear them refer to Nani as Nani of the Maroons. And then they say there's Nanny of the Moors. What is it really? What is the best way, I think, to identify Nanny? Well, when we look at where she's from, she's an African out of the continent, and she's a Moor. So she's Nanny of the Moors. The term maroon is a problematic in Jamaica because people put in their own definition to the term maroon. Maroon is coming from the Spanish now, you know. And the Spanish applied this term to Africans who were unwilling to stay on their plantation. So Africans who came with Columbus and even before, so many freed Africans came here and decided that they would not be a part of the Spanish colony. Them take care of themselves. And they created their own indigenous communities in the hills and the mountains of Jamaica. And remember now, these were people of higher culture than the Spanish. It's not like some slave runaway. It's not no runaway slaves. That happened later on. But when the Spanish came, and we have to remember that there are two periods. There's the Spanish in the 1490s and there's the British in the 1650s. So 200 years pass between the Spanish and the British. And in those 200 years, plenty black men take to the mountains. Free Africans. So we have to break away from this impression that all of the Africans who went to the mountain were slaves. That is false. You have enough men who take a ship before the ship reach land, commandeer the ship, and come to land as free black people. And not just free black people, but talented engineers, scientists, farmers, botanists, all of those disciplines within the Africans. So the English don't want you to get an impression of the island with people on it who are qualified and educated. You want to give an impression of an island that is sparsely populated. So the concept of the maroon has nothing to do with any special race of people. It's one race. It's African people who take away themselves from these colonial societies and become marooned. There are people right now on the International Space Station, and if for some reason they cannot be taken down, they would be marooned on the space station. And if you go to sea and your ship mash up and you can't come into and you have difficulties, you are marooned at sea. So let us use our intelligence now to speak about maroon. Maroon is not a race of people. So there are marooned Africans in St. Elizabeth. And there are marooned Africans in Charlestown and in Moortown and all of these various pockets. There are marooned Africans in Suriname. They're all across the Western world where African people take with themselves and maintain their identity and their indigenous ways. So here on this island now, we hear warring amongst ourselves about maroon sellout and maroon this. And then we have maroons here, people who are identified as maroons. And there are people here who call themselves Rastafarians. And the maroons and the Rastas generally have one construct that is identical. That is the idea of liberation. Now, the narrative that we get is that the maroons sell out. And what is the sellout? I don't know. And why is it, even if that was the case, why are we hanging on to that? Why we can't get past that? Why we can't forgive and move along? But we quickly forgive white people when they murder away. We apologize to them for killing us. But when we have to apologize to each other, we find it very, very painful. So in Jamaica, we have to break down the divide that we're having up between maroon and Rastafari. Because it's a false narrative and it's one that is maintained by those who are bent on keeping black people separate. There is no group of people called, there's no race called maroon. It's one race of people called Africans. And when we begin to get to that essence, it will matter not whether you are maroon or whether you are Rasta or whether you are Bobo or whether you are Orthodox. Peter Touch says we are African. That is the unity. So in our celebration of our heroes, and looking at the first one, who is Nani, where is the representation of Nani in the Jamaican society? Where do we go and find a museum that tells us about the life and the government don't think it's important? And the both parties hold the same ideology. We look at a man like Sam Sharp. Well, even before Sam Sharp, we look at Taki. Taki was a general. And the struggle between Taki and the British is no different from the struggle between Nani and the British. So what we realize is that we're getting these heroes out of confrontation. Like our heroes now are being birthed out of resistance. We can call these our resistance heroes. Heroes who are resisting oppression, racial oppression. Is that ideology still being promoted in our Jamaican society? Do we still support and promote resistance to racism, to classism, to colonialism? Because we are glorifying the heroes for these works. That was their mission, to mash down the injustice within the society. And the same society that these heroes fight against, turn around and turn them into heroes. Something is funny and something is sad when the opposition forces turn our resistance fighters into heroes. That sounds like a high level of hypocrisy. So we see Taki, we see Nani. The government didn't see it fit to declare Taki as a national hero. They saw it fit to declare Sam Sharp. And we look at Sam Sharp's profile. Sam Sharp, in a nutshell, declared that he would rather die at the hand of the gallows than to live as a slave. I wonder if people really understand the power of that psychology. And these two characters represent national heroes. What happened to Sam Sharp? What happened to Paul Bogle? These men were hung. These men were hung. These men were Christians. Check the lyrics. Metamorphosis.
Don't miss the adrenaline rush with the musical ingenious Digital T. Saturdays, right here on Styles FM from 4 to 8 p.m. Remember the uprising artists and new music segment from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Also mixed journal hour from 6 to 7 p.m. And the party hour from 7 to 8. Come, Styles FM. Digital T. Our brain.
Do you have or are you seeking a place to rent, seeking employment or have a job vacancy? Are you selling a car or having a garage sale? Then come see us. Let Styles do the advertising for you and you'll be on your way in no time. Contact us at 876-286-9216 or 439-5160. Advertising Style. Advertise with Styles.
Remember Styles FM on social media. View us on YouTube, Styles FM Radio. Follow us on Instagram at Styles FM. Like us on Twitter at Styles FM 961. Become a fan on Facebook. Styles FM 96.1.
Architects, draftsmen, and surveyors, get your drawings printed in high-quality professional standards. We can satisfy your printing needs. Whether it is for presentation to your clients or for submitting building and subdivision application, make it VJ Printing Services. Whether drawing by hand or with computer-aided softwares, we will plot your negatives and print the copies as you need. We do high-quality white paper printing that is water-resistant and never fades, unlike traditional blueprint. For more information, call VJ Printing at 893-2266.
Well, you don't know it's Steph
Fire show. The fire wake up in the morning to the sunlight and your face lifted here to the sky, breathing the air of another day, another Thursday, yeah. She give a thanks to Jah, guidance and discharge. She pray with this ritual devotion. She enhance her energy, a positivity. She open eye and open mind and open thoughts. But they don't know it's a girl bird's eye representing for the Step Eye Fire Show. Hot.
Yeah, Metamorphosis going through. Dr. Iman Blak, your host. Hail up Tris and all the people who are in the Bronx, Brooklyn, New York, Queens, Staten Island. Yes, and New Jersey. That portion for now. And Pennsylvania. Yeah, we're looking at the whole hero structure that has been presented to the population to just simply accept and, as usual, just digest and go through. But here we are going to interrogate. You know, you like that word? We're going to interrogate these heroes and the processes that bring them to our consciousness. And what we realize right and first and foremost is that we have to remember the plantation society established by the colonial powers. The plantation society established by the Spanish in the 1400s and taken over by the British in the 1600s. And that these colonies were run by violence and brutality, sodomization, particularly when the English decided to go to Africa to bring more Africans here, because Africans were here already under the journey with the Spanish. But now they wanted Africans for labor power, servants and slaves. And so this other movement into the continent now also dealt with brutality, racism, oppression, all of these things now. And out of that settings, environment, would emerge individuals who Jamaicans will end up calling their national heroes. So we have recognized the violence as the environment, slavery, chattel slavery, where individuals no longer have any personal identity and self-value. All those things have been taken away. Where you no longer name related. There's no name related anymore to your culture. You're now John Brown rather than Kwame Nkrumah. So within all that brutality, here comes individuals to help to try to change the situation. So these individuals that I just mentioned, the first two, Taki, Nani, and Sharp, for example, their efforts were no different from the efforts that took place in Haiti under Christophe and Toussaint Louverture. The same struggle for liberation. That has always been the struggle. So from the moment the Europeans began to mix with black people, we have been engaged in a struggle. And that struggle has been to recover our identity and to purge ourselves of that alien mixture. So what you find within time is that liberation becomes a primary effort and total focus. And these leaders, never did you hear or read anything of these individuals struggling for emancipation. It just doesn't exist. So all across the planet, wherever there are liberation struggles, where there people rise up against opposition, nobody rises up and struggles for emancipation. So Nani had no idea of emancipation. Paul Bogle wasn't struggling for emancipation. Neither was Sam Sharp. So what I'm saying today, I them know that these early set of national heroes had a focus. And their focus was liberation. And liberation of the race of African people. No class, no gender. The liberation of the race. And if you hold liberation as an important end point, then when we look at what the government has created as a symbol of the effort of these heroes, we bring into focus the park set up in St. Andrew, Kingston and St. Andrew. It's called Emancipation Park. Now this park is supposed to represent the sacred ground. It's supposed to represent a victory, a battle, a victory, a site of victory for the heroes who gave their lives for the liberation of their people. Little did they know that there would have been a great deception on the people, and that the people would not really be put in a position to feel as though they were liberated, but instead the people would have been given this law, doctrine, this proclamation called emancipation. So what I'm saying today, I them know, is that our national heroes, particularly the early heroes, 3, 4 of them, their struggle was for black liberation. And the government, in its wisdom, has built a park to celebrate emancipation. So emancipation has become the centerpiece of the Jamaican population, not liberation, emancipation. All right, so let us work with that. And when we examine what emancipation means, it does not mean to be free. Emancipation means that you are no longer under the responsibility of your parent. And in this context, now we're talking about the British, who saw themselves as the parents to these African children who were their slaves. So the park, I'm going to get to the point I'm getting at, what the government has constructed in Kingston, supposed to be a sacred and a holy place as it relates to the liberation struggle of the black people here. Now, a little segue into the ministries now that govern the plantation. And one of the important ministries I want to focus in now for examination is the ministry that is responsible for overseeing a site like the Emancipation Park. A government that is responsible for an aspect of the people called culture. And when we begin to realize that it is a culture of the Africans that have been keeping I and I alive, not what the system has provided. It's not the education system, not the political system that has been keeping the black people alive. It has been their culture. And what is significant that I want to bring forth to look into is that the governments have created, this government in particular, have created a ministry that embraces almost the everything that makes up the being of the black man on this island. And by the everything, I mean his culture, his entertainment, and his sports. And I'm saying these three areas that the black man has carved out for himself, by himself, for himself. It has been put under one ministry. And we need to look very, very carefully now. Because if our liberation will come through our cultural knowledge and cultural awareness, then we have to look carefully now into this ministry of culture that also captures entertainment and sport. These are the areas that the black people should be talking about as them sites of liberation through industry. And the Ministry of Culture need to be scrutinized in the same way we're looking at the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Energy. This culture ministry could be the linchpin and the key to freeing up the powers and the potential of the Jamaican society. Sitting down on three critical areas of our development: culture, entertainment, and sport. And then to top it off now, we had an event in that same sacred space last week, Friday, by a rapper from the United States who used that space to sell to Jamaica Jesus, that Jesus is king. And in that same process, decide to bandoogle the national symbols and to engage our national symbols in a marketing way without any consent of our government. And I'm saying this is sacrilege. This is a very serious thing that has happened to the Jamaican people. And I'm saying we want to look at it very carefully. What is the role of the Ministry of Culture? If these type of invasions can take place in sacred spaces that is respected at the level of our heroes, something is amiss. Metamorphosis. Yes, it's time to rise. It's time to rise, but rising is not like, oh, you put yeast into flour and the flour rise, you know. We're not into that type of rising. We're talking about rising up in the consciousness, in the awareness, and in the knowledge of self and knowledge of your race. Because it's important that we move beyond the individual, you know, and begin to see the collective. The collective is a race. And we're not talking about no human race. We're talking about the African, the black race. Now, heroes in the Jamaican context are supposed to be individuals who deserve honor because of their life and their commitment to the freeing up of the society, freeing up the society out of oppression, racism, classism, all the various isms, and also to lift the consciousness out of this sense of humiliation and degradation that you feel as an individual going through the society. The symbols that we get from the governance, the symbols are supposed to be important and supposed to be motivational. You can also have symbols that are demotivational. So what are the symbols we have that have been created that supposed to motivate us? Well, separate from the heroes, the government has given the country a set of national symbols, because remember now we move from emancipation to independence. So the heroes, we have heroes of emancipation and we have heroes of independence. The independence heroes now are recent politicians. And the emancipation heroes are the heroes who died for the race. And in today's generation, the focus is no longer on the race, it appears, but on the political expediencies and status that one can achieve. But let us look at it this way. Those who have gone and have been sacrificed themselves and them time for the upliftment of this country and have been raised to the level of heroes. I am saying now, if some of these, like Nani and Taki and Sam Sharp, and if these individuals were alive today and they paid a visit to the Emancipation Park, this is a park now that has been created literally in honor of these individuals. If these individuals were to be alive today and made a walk into that park, they would die again from shock. These individual heroes, Nani would just drop down from shock. Sam Sharp would have dropped down. Taki, Bogle. What is in the park that is so shocking that would make these heroes die again? They're probably mourning right now, you know. But there's something in the park that is humiliating, it is atrocious, it is an abomination to our heroes. It's a disgrace and an affront to black family. Nobody don't notice it. What is it that has been put in that Emancipation Park that is supposed to be symbolic of the black man's representation of emancipation? And I'm telling you, Nani wouldn't if Nani come into the park, Nani would have turned back and run out. Sam Sharp, who vowed that he would rather die than live as a slave, he would have run out of Emancipation Park. People, you don't see it. It has been put there, and both political parties have been quiet, they've been satisfied, they've been okay. Iman rotted that this thing has been in the park for so long. But what brings it obvious to this point in time is because them bring the American rapper in the same park. So it brings the Ministry of Culture up on the radar. What is the role of the Ministry of Culture? Number one, in bringing this rapper to tell the people about Jesus and to use it our permission, our national symbols in a marketing way. And number two, that statue, that abomination that exposes private parts of the black man. That is a disgrace. It's a dishonor to black people, a dishonor to the black family. We see two statues without any children around them. Two statues of the people them looking up into the sky. You think Paul Bogle would have any respect for that as a symbol of emancipation? Is that him struggle and die for? To see a statue put up of an African man with his penis hanging out naked? And you must take your children now into Emancipation Park. You're in your house and you're protecting your privacy in your house. And when you go outside where you're protecting at this private, it's out there in the public. It's a big disrespect to black people and black family and black culture. There's nowhere else in the world you can go and find a man with his penis hanging out naked as a statue in anywhere. Representation of emancipation. You see the sickness, we have to investigate the Ministry of Culture. Metamorphosis. And so you take your family into Emancipation Park. And while you're at home getting together, putting on the clothes, you're hiding your private parts in your house. While you're putting on your clothes and your family putting themselves together. But then you go into the Emancipation Park and your son said to you, Daddy, what is that? How the man penis out the door, Daddy? What do you explain to your children? How do you explain to your children that nakedness, that is going to be symbolic of an emancipated people? It's insane. There's no justification. And then the artists need to be brought up into serious question. Who is this artist? Does this artist have an experience of black struggle? No. The artist creates something where them feel like, just like the Marcus Garvey statue where them put up a UA there. It's the same mentality that goes into these constructions. So the black man, after 1492 struggles, 1655 with the British, 1834, all of a sudden, sometime in the 1900s, this symbolic representation of him and his struggle is him standing there with him naked penis hanging out and him looking up into the sky. And his woman now, they don't even touch each other. These are two objects that are separate in space and time, and they're looking into the sky. And you know, it's like them giving the traditional Christian thanks by looking above. So the emancipation didn't come through the efforts of them own. It came from above. These are symbols. And symbols carry powerful messages. And these messages register not in the conscious, but in the subconscious brain. Subliminally is where the power is being generated. The subliminal brain. And so you wonder why Jamaican society lose so much of its morality when it comes to dressing. Everybody can naked now, you know. You can always walk naked. You see, from the time that such a go up, it's like it give a free license to walk around naked. And you check the times. Look at what point in time we began to walk around with greater nakedness. It's a cue. And so the governance, the two parties them support it. Both of them, none of them find anything offensive to it. I am totally offended. It is an affront to my black family that I feel intimidated and feel threatened in a way that I must take my children into Emancipation Park or look upon a long big wood and tell my child that symbol is a symbol of emancipation. Then what is it to be liberated then? So we have to stop and check. And we're asking the Ministry of Culture now to come up and tell us what you really deal with. That's all. Because during the emancipation process, no resources were given to the black people to develop themselves. So the black people turned inwardly, and what they turned to was them culture, them drumming, them dancing, and these evolved into them entertainment. And by participating in activities, we became games and sports. So there are three pillars that black people can establish as foundations to set up industries. And the present government has no real policy, you know, when it comes to creativity and the creative industries. I have colleagues from university who've beaten down for years for the government to develop a policy on our creative industries. It don't exist. Now Kanye West compile our national symbols. And the minister now is going to reconstitute a committee to revisit these things. That is a knee-jerk reaction. So there's no proactive thinking to really elevate and develop these three pillars that black man developed out of himself. And these have been locked up into one ministry: culture, entertainment, sports. These are the three areas that black man has created out of his own being, for which the government provides little infrastructural support. Few resources being spent in sports, little bit of resources being spent in entertainment, likewise culture. So these are areas that, when you look into the whole world, these three are global industries by themselves. Not three little areas of entertainment and activity like how Jamaica lock it up. Sports is a multi-billion-dollar global industry. So is entertainment. So is culture. And we have these three areas locked up into one ministry, under one minister. She can't manage all of that. No one person can manage all of those resources to really liberate the 94% of this population. So industrialization should be directed at these three areas. Yeah, industry, tourism should not be the centerpiece of our industrialization. It is obvious that our culture is global. That's why Kanye West can come into Jamaica and everybody run up and down behind him and let off $1 million. Who really benefits? Kingston and St. Andrew and a few individuals. But what does he take away? He takes away our national symbols and carry them into the money world. What are these national symbols? The coat of arms, the bird, the this. Where does that, how do these people come here with that type of strength to have no respect for our national symbols? Is it because we just gladdy and licky and just want to run up and down behind celebrities? Our heroes are rolling over in them grave. They are mourning at this point in time because our culture is not being protected. Our entertainment and our sports is not being harvested for the upliftment of the 94%. So it come like say there needs to be a new way of looking at our own resources. And the deepest resource we have is the people. And within the people is the culture. So the culture ministry should not be a little side ministry. It should be at the center of the Jamaican economy. They have attached gender to the ministry, which is, to me, something that is just a site where women just find enough work. Enough women going vex with that. But I don't understand why you even need a gender ministry. What is so special about gender? Is man and woman are in the earth. But the gender industry is something that's created for women. And these same women who fighting for equality with man, them don't want man play netball. Yeah? Them are all netball as a special space for women only. Yet them hypocritical in them argument that all things should be made equal and women should be everywhere. So the gender thing is a sham. Because gender suggests that violence is not being promoted by females and that males are not victims. So I don't really support the whole gender issue thing. I know gender agency, I know gender studies and all them kind of thing there. There's a lot of resources just going to waste. We must focus on the culture. Focus on entertainment. Focus on sports. And if those three areas were to be developed into industries, there will be no more poverty in Jamaica. But then if there's no more poverty, there will be no more use of the politicians. So it go.
Brick by brick, we gonna beat them down, 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 down. Stick by stick, we gonna beat the oppressors down. We want no more wars around us, no more wars to divide us. Brick by brick, we gonna tear those evil walls down. We want no more wars around us, no more wars to divide us. Brick by brick, we gonna beat them down, 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 down. Stick by stick, we gonna beat the oppressors down. brick, we're gonna tear those evil walls down. No more walls around us, no more walls to divide us. Brick by brick, we're gonna tear them down, 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 down. Stick by stick, we're gonna beat the oppressors down. We're taking another route to peace. We want the guns and the bomb to cease. We can't make peace by making war. We can't get close by staying far. No more wars, no more wars, no more wars. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Ooh, oh, Lord, yeah. We talking about the burning walls. We're talking about the iron curtain. Things will change in one bright day, and this is for certain. People get what people want. That's their destiny. It may take 100 years, but they'll get it eventually. No more wars around us, no more wars to divide us. Brick by brick, we're gonna tear those evil walls down. Stick by stick, we're gonna beat the oppressors down. We want no more wars around us, no more wars to divide us. Brick by brick, we're gonna tear them down, 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 down. Stick by stick, we're gonna beat the oppressors down.
You know, there are certain symbols that need to be torn down. Yeah, certain symbols, certain things that have been constructed by colonial forces that represent them that need to be torn down. We see it happening right across the globe, you know. As people become more aware of their own historical history, their own being, they begin to realize that there is value in their own self and in value in their own people. So there's a time when the statue of Cecil Rhodes would stand high in South Africa until the consciousness of the black people rose to the level which made them realize that those statues must go because they hold within them the memories of the brutality and symbolize oppression, etc., etc. There are certain things that have to come down in Jamaica too. Yeah, certain ancient British symbols that have to come down. Because as I said, these symbols carry with it the history and the memory. And sometimes we have to wipe away those memories to reconstruct ourselves in the present dispensation. One of the places that holds these statues and images is the University of the West Indies. One of the statues up there that need to come down is Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah, what does Gandhi have to do with black liberation? Yeah, what does it have to do with black liberation? It's like having a statue of Columbus. All of these things are being torn down right around the world, you know. As people become more conscious of the oppression and the importance of symbols and statues. We don't have a major statue of Marcus Garvey outside of St. Anne. There's no real major work. And Nani. Now, people might think that these things are superficial, but symbols carry messages. And when I go into Emancipation Park, where I should be in a place where I'm feeling at home with my ancestors and freedom fighters, I am faced with a naked statue. And up to today, I can't understand how is it there has been no public outcry to take down that nakedness. It's a hypocrisy within the governance. What does that have to do with emancipation? It's not artwork. We're not showing the art of the body. What does it have to do with the black family? What would Nanny say if Nanny was to see that statue as a fighter for the Jamaican people? So we have to begin to think about our pride. I am ashamed when I see that statue. There's nothing to be proud about that. And the little children, when they see that, they feel embarrassed, but they can't say it. It's an embarrassment to Jamaica. But people think it's a tourist site where white people can come look on the physical structure of the black man that them fear so much. That statue must come down. I tell you them. You talk about the clock in Portland? That nakedness must come down. The landscape of Jamaica need to be cleaned up. And part of the landscape is the statues and the images that are constructed. We're living in these 3 counties, theoretically. We're living in Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. What the heck is that? What do those 3 ideological places have to do with Jamaica today? They lock us into English history. And I heard somebody on the radio say that there are people who will defend the clock in Port Antonio to the death. And they may not be wrong. Because you have people here who are clinging to British traditions more than trying to be Jamaican or try to be their African self. So it is showing that even when we are celebrating our heroes, we still hate ourselves. We hate the essence of our African self. Because our heroes who fought for African redemption did not fight for emancipation. And what the government has given us along working with the Queen of England is a law called emancipation. And that law frees the British from any moral responsibility of the Jamaican population. And with that law, the British are not morally responsible for the future of the black population here. So the cry for reparations is falling on deaf ears because the British will have told you that they were emancipated, therefore they owe nothing morally. Maybe we should just take that message and run with it and begin to focus more on our own self-development and leave them with them change. Leave them, let us stop pursuing in that fulsome way and direct more of our energies into our internal development. Heroes and sheroes is what we're looking at. And the Ministry of Culture in Jamaica must be brought to explain to the Jamaican people how did this American rapper with his money get into our sacred space to come to tell us about Jesus when we done overwhelmed with Jesus already. That we have more churches in the island per square mile than any other country. So it was no new message. Coming to Jamaica to tell us about Jesus is King is no message. But there was money. Some money exchange. And we say some people get our money. But is it all about money? Did our heroes fight for money? Or did they fight to establish respect and dignity amongst the black people? But for me, I make some choices now, you know. But for I make some hard choices. I want to hail up Anne-Marie out in Snow Hill. I want to hail up Lady Nicola up in Kensington out here in Portland same way. I want to hail up my neighbor in St. Thomas with no name. But we give thanks for your communication. So we'll kind of just move away from this heroine situation. There are attempts every Heroes Month. There's an attempt to bring Bob Marley into the discussion that Bob Marley should be a national hero. And I will maintain my position that Bob Marley is already an international hero. And Bob Marley does not need the government, the two tribes, to proclaim him a national hero. It would be just strictly hypocritical. Because Rastafari is what Bob Marley is. And none of these governments are really promoting and interested in the culture of Rastafari. So Bob Marley safe where he is, outside of Jamaica, because the globe has already accepted him. Let him be. We don't need any more national heroes. We hear about Miss Lou. Miss Lou was ridiculed by the society because she dressed in a tablecloth and talk patois. So don't let these people fool you, you know. Don't let them fool you about them celebrating 100 years of Miss Lou and all of this. The culture ministry need to be investigated because enough things going on under that ministry that need to be exposed. The ministry is limited. There should be a minister, a junior minister for sports. There should be a minister for entertainment, and there should be a specific minister for culture. Because these are three areas, as I said to the item, these are global industrial areas. And these areas need special attention, but this is because is a black majority embrace these three areas. This is why the treatment is so. Remember, you know, is self-development and self-creation why black people in Jamaica prospering through sports. It's nothing that was organized and laid out and say, here, go and have it. The same thing with entertainment. The drumming, coming out of East Kingston, the chanting, Rastafari, Naya Bingi, Scatterlights, all of those forces coming out of the indigenous mind of the black people. And these are areas that are industries global. What we need is leadership to recognize that if you want to really break the back of poverty in Jamaica and to curb the violence, we need to focus full-time on building entertainment, sports, and culture that will transform this island from the ghetto vibes into the paradise that we all desire. Metamorphosis. Yeah, I don't want to beat this into infinity now, you know. But the imagery that is projected by that statue in Emancipation Park, I really think it's disturbing. And what is disturbing about it now, you know, is not the fact that the bodies are naked, you know, because you have people telling me on Facebook that it's the naked body is artwork and doctors see the body naked every day and blah, blah, blah. That is not the point. When you see naked bodies, let us look at the African woman first. So we see the woman and her breasts are exposed. That is a tradition in Africa. That is African societies, women travel bare-breasted. But you have to notice something that within the African tradition, the breasts are not a sexual organ, you know. Make you recognize that. The breasts are not a sexual organ. But they are private organs that we consider the human body to have. Private and public parts of the body. And the penis of the man is not considered to be a public, something to be presented in the public. You don't see the man walk through the street with his penis out. Right away you see that that's an aberration. And there's almost nowhere in the world you go and you see this type of artwork in the public. So when you expose the private parts of a man in public, you're disgracing and you're bringing that man into disrepute. Yeah, make us see it serious. Because that man also has family, he have daughter, he have son. And these children don't see the father walking around the house naked. But them go outside the street and go into the park and say a big good hanging. And I have to ask, Daddy, what that? Yeah, man, this is disturbing. And I'm on a lick against it for the longest time, but it has come home stronger now because of the recent events in the same Emancipation Park. So I'm going to leave it at that and see if the Ministry of Culture can become cultural. The artist who created that thing is a woman who, I don't remember her name. And she, as far as I remember, have no experience with slavery nor emancipation. It's the same way they make the brethren make the image of Marcus Garvey without any sentiment and understanding of Garvey, nor his movement, nor his philosophy. So what him draw, what him create is not the essence of the expression. What you have in Emancipation Park is two nude people looking into the sky, not even able to touch each other, not being able to look in each other's eyes, have no compassion, nothing emotional about it. And that is what is going to be the symbol of emancipation. Then we have a long, 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 long way to go to get close to our liberation. Yeah, that's how it go. I hate that. Well, okay, WhatsApp is bubbling up. And I don't know if the neighbor in St. Thomas are asking this question. But the neighbor in St. Thomas let me know that they are makers of brooms. And they have handicraft. They may not be anybody's hero, but they use their hands to do what they can. I think that's what them said. But somebody's asking this one. Them say, what if I take my husband to the park and both of us strip naked beneath the statue for a picture? Would we be arrested? Hi, sir. Yo. Yeah. So this woman asking that if she was to take her husband to Emancipation Park and go stand up in front of the naked image and she naked too and take a picture, what could the Roman society do to her? Could they arrest her? For what? It's a very serious question, you know, even though it may seem tongue-in-cheek. But what would be the outcome of that? Because we don't have the two naked statue in front of we already. What would be the problem now if I just imitate those two statues? You're going to lock me up for nakedness? You see, when the women now begin to walk around naked and the man them with them pants drop below them bottom, what can you tell them? What can you tell a youth now with them pants under them bottom and them show you the naked man with them would hang out in the park? We are contradictory and we are full of paradox. And we are hypocritical as a society. And there will be no growth until the mentality of the society upgrade. Which means from the leadership down. Ministry of Culture, Education, Sport, Entertainment. All of that wrap up in one. Plus them throwing gender. That's a super ministry. That should be the center of the economy, not hospitality. Make her get it right. Metamorphosis.
The youths them have no parents, so you find that they have lost their way. I'm missing out another word, we're not gonna further. Your baby mother, you go murder. Revelation tell we so what is this is the end of day. Yes, this is the end of day. Yes, this is the end of day. All right.
Did you know that dengue, chikungunya, and Zika are transmitted by mosquitoes? This is why it is so important to get rid of tires, bottles, and other containers with stagnant water and keep barrels covered. Eliminating stagnant water is everyone's responsibility. Protect yourself and your family. A message from the USAID, PSI Caribbean, CARFA, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Planning a party, club night out, stage show, a gospel concert, or even a business sales event? Let Styles FM be a part of your promoting tool. Take advantage of our low-priced promotion packages with commercials, interviews, giveaways, reviews, and much more. We have special offers when you mix and match and bundle your options. Contact us at 876-286-9216 or 439-5160. Styles FM for the most effective way to exploit your marketing dollar.
Business operators, local and overseas. This announcement is for you.
Styles FM is an internationally known radio network with worldwide listeners in over 120 countries.
From our studio in Port Antonio, Jamaica, to the ears of the people in your community, our listeners can be your new customers.
Styles FM is an economical, efficient, and effective advertising option for your business.
No matter the size of your business, there's always growth potential. Styles FM provides the customer reach needed to realize that upward movement.
So procrastinate no more. Advertising is a must.
For more details on how to advertise with Styles FM, visit www.stylesfm.com or email info@stylesfm.com or call us on 876-518-2399.
Styles FM, the world listens.
This is Ricardo Suave, inviting you to tune into Music, the show for the ladies, with DJ Prestige, from 9 to midnight every Tuesday on Styles 96.1 FM, Portland's best.
Girl, I've been watching you.
For the best quality in sound reinforcement and backlining, native audio, we have professional engineers with over 20 years of experience. So call us and we'll take care of your parties, wedding receptions, barbecues, conferences, and small stage shows. crystal clear sound. Native Audio. Our prices are the best. Call us at 871-5212. That's 871-5212. Native Audio. We make your events audible. Audible. Audible.
Two Hard Music.
One civilization is not complete without its art, the highest form of expression of human intelligence. You have become complacent, sitting down and allowing the other nations to run away with everything. You have become a bunch of consumers. You are creators. Rise up, mighty people, accomplish what you will. Without confidence, you're twice defeated in the race of life.
Let's look away the voices that gave the people pride. Now we're plunging into darkness. We all have to play our part, make a bold start. Every distract, sell every artist. Media houses, we notice, sell them support the slackness. How so much alcohol in our parties. While the girls that broke out of this up over, she drink, knock her out. Now she no care with them prop her up.
It's times like these, I'm missing our heroes. Times like these, I really wish they were around. It shouldn't have to be like this. Marcus Garvey, we know so you try your best, but we have to go do the rest.
The grade up the shot at them, now we have a lot of them. Press up, pop up, now the grave them a go back at them. Them rock the national bird wing. Sell we out clean, me no think we own a damn thing. Jam rock, why we giving in to the trick where them a trick we from the beginning. Parents in it, we wake up from the slumbering. It's with children, blood them is running.
It's times like these, I'm missing our heroes. Times like these, I really wish they were around. Shouldn't have to be like this. But Marley, you know you never die in vain. We gonna rise again. Hey.
We use the fist, hold the bell, big promise till it's will. Nobody now go here if you don't yell. This is where them tell you about the bucket where go well. Black woman put on your baggy, that's something they no faces. And so we get fed was the fire they go well. Go ask them who put it grab in a barrel. PM opposition do not done with the quarrel. Unite, come together, these the people out with chill.
It's times like these, I'm missing our heroes. Times like these, I really wish they were around. Shouldn't have to be like this. Oh, Miss Lou, we need you. At the first we heard of this, hundreds and counting on the murder, this salute this.
Let's look away the voices that gave the people pride. Now we're plunging into darkness. We all have to play our part, make a bold start. Every distract, sell every artist. Media houses, we know this, support the slackness. How so much alcohol in our parties. While the girls that broke out of this up over, she drink, knock her out. Now she no care with them prop her up.
It's times like these, I'm missing our heroes. Times like these, I really wish they were around. We need you, we need you, we need you, Sam Sharp. We need you, we need you, we need you, Nanny. Yeah, it's times like these, I'm missing our heroes. Times like these, I really wish they were
Marcus Garvey is like medicine. Yeah, Garvey is like the medicine for the black people. Listen to Ayaso.
Teach Marcus Garvey to our enemies and friends. Them rather a thousand gunmen without a plan. Oh yeah. Them rather a thousand gunmen.
Here Ayaso say, them rather 1,000 gunmen without a plan. Them rather that more than teach Marcus Garvey to the youths them. And here it is now, the first national hero defined by the government of Jamaica. The same government that chased Garvey out of Jamaica. So look at how our heroes are treated. And you make you wonder if you want to be a hero or you rather be a villain. Marcus Messiah Garvey, the Black Messiah, coming out of the womb of a black mother to lead the African population to them self-consciousness again. So you wonder now if the government of Jamaica is interested in the 94% coming to know themselves? Or are they afraid that there shall be a total uprising? So, to overstand Garvey, we need to move beyond just the philosophy and get into aspects of Garvey's personality. Because as black people now, we need to imitate not just the sayings of Garvey, but we need to be able to imitate some of his personality. So it takes I and I forward now to the reason that was in the last program that speaks to ego. This thing that the Europeans convince us that we have. That we have an ego. And as I was saying from the previous program, as black man, we need to revisit this ego construct. Check yourself. Is it something we're born with? Is it something that advances the cause that we pursue, this ego thing? Or does ego get into the way? Is ego a handicap? And we look at a man like Marcus Garvey. And you recognize that Garvey didn't suffer from any ego problems. Because Garvey's vision was not focused on me, meaning in his own body. He was not focused on me. He wasn't into the me first. Garvey wasn't into me, and everything is me. Garvey's personality allowed him to develop what I call his I consciousness. And the whole idea of the ego now. Remember I said to the item now, you have to begin to read up on a man called Sigmund Freud. Freud. Because it is Freud that has created this personality theory that develops and revolves around something called an ego. And if you adopt this personality theory, it's very unlikely you're going to function in the ways that Garvey and our other national heroes function. Because what is this ego thing? And I'm saying to the item now, check yourself from birth. Check yourself from conception. Egg and sperm connect. And there's a consciousness evolving. Come through the fetus, it becomes a child and the child step out. No, there is no ego. I'm saying in the black child, there is no such thing called ego. The black child comes through with a body, which is the me, and the black child has a consciousness in the brain, which is the I. The ego is a European construction that represents the center of the consciousness of the European. And that center of consciousness is not is no way similar to the center of consciousness of the African. The ego, as established by Sigmund Freud, is the center of awareness, but it is driven by unsurety. It is insecure. It is always in contention with the environment, because you have to look at where the European evolved. The European evolved in an ice culture, in a harsh environment. So the center of his consciousness functions different from an individual who comes up in an environment of abundance and sunshine and food. So there's two different centers of consciousness. The European who calls the center of his consciousness an ego is one that is very unsure. So that insecurity breeds a certain type of mentality. It also feeds on anxiety, because the environment is so harsh in those European climates that the individual consciousness is always in contestation with the environment. So the ego of the European is always battling and struggling with the environment, trying to overcome and trying to overpower the environment. That ego of an idea that it must be dominant and have dominion over all things. The African center of consciousness doesn't strive for dominance. It strives for coordination and cooperation, because the environment is different. The environment of the African was not hostile. There are no winters. There are no periods of harshness. So the center of consciousness are of two different orientation. The European center of consciousness, called the ego, is fearful, insecure, and doubtful in its orientation. And that is driven because of the environment. So when that framework is imposed on the African, it disturbs the African meditation totally. Because the ego is an alien force that is now injected into the African. The center of consciousness of the African was always the spirit. The I consciousness is a spirit. And the African was always known as a spiritual being. The European is an egotistical being, because the ego is reinforced and strives and thrives on material things. The spirit of Marcus Garvey could not be satisfied by material things. The spirit of Garvey was motivated through liberation. And liberation is a process that sets people free from all sort of oppression, whether it's economic, political, class, or race. So this ego thing that the black man has been programmed to hold has become a weapon against his own self. Because in this insecure mode and this mode of no confidence, he's already working against himself. He's already working against the philosophy of Marcus Garvey, who says that confidence is what kickstarts everything. So the ego. We are also told that we have a super ego. You might laugh now. I wonder, what is this super ego thing? Well, the personality theory tells us that the super ego is the area of consciousness where the conscience operates. Now, what is conscience? How does one develop a conscience? Because we can look into the world and see people behaving, and we have a question whether they have any conscience or not. Does everybody have a conscience? Is conscience inborn? Is conscience cultural? How do you develop your conscience? Well, I'm going to tell you how the Europeans put conscience into black people. Because the conscience that has been put into the black man comes basically from his religious training. And in this conscience region of the brain now, we're supposed to have our moral laws. And the moral laws are supposed to control the ego. So it's a three-part construction according to the theory of personality. There's an ego, there's a super ego, and there's an id. So the id is at the foundation. The id, they say, is the aspect of your consciousness that reflects animal behavior. Passions. The ego supposed to deal with consciousness. Be aware. And the super ego is supposed to be your conscience that tells you what to do and what not to do. And for the African, conscience is a short way of saying religious training. So if you want to have an African feel guilty, you have to tamper with the super ego. You have to get the person to feel guilty, and guilt comes from the education and the training of what you must do and what you must not do. So they give us these three parts of our being: a super ego, an ego, and an id. And I'm saying to the item now, Marcus Garvey could never function as a liberator working out of that personality framework. So what is the framework that is more useful for black man? And I'm saying we have to begin with the me. We have to begin to look at ourselves, the temple, which is the body. Because nothing really functions if the temple is out of order. The temple is the me. The me has consciousness. And in the black man, the me is a site of tremendous amount of memories that are stored in the black skin. So the European don't want to speak about the black skin because he has no memories in his skin. So him same have a id. And in the id of the European now is the history of the animals, because they believe that they evolved from the apes. And so in the brain of the white man, he thinks that he has the animal ancestry, and he says these things are put away in a part of him psychology called the id. And the ego must struggle to control these id feelings. I am saying in the black man, we don't have no id. There is no id. We have the me, and the me is driven by feelings. So when emotional feelings rise up, sexual feelings, bodily needs, is the me crying out. Because the me has needs that need to be satisfied. And in those cryings, whether it's for food, water, rest, shelter, or sex, when the me cries out, the black man must respond by exercising the powers of the I. And so Garvey had great control of the I. Garvey could focus. Garvey could concentrate because of the energies and the powers that was within the I consciousness of Marcus Garvey. What the European call the superego, what you call conscience, is within the I. Because we have a moral values, we have morality. And what is really absent in today's governance is really morality. And what is morality? How do we arrive at morality? How do we arrive at concepts of justice and fairness? So it's about self-searching. We have to search ourselves and we have to reconfigure our psychology as black people. We have to bring the ego to a closure. In the female, there is no speaking of an ego, but the female must have a center of consciousness as well. She must have a center of reality. There is no name attached to it. So the impression is that the ego is superior. And so the male now develops this superiority complex because of this ego. The same Sigmund Freud now, who developed these theories. So the man turn around and say that the females are suffering from penis envy. Remember, say it again. Sigmund Freud, same great psychologist who tell us that we have id and ego and these other parts of our being. Him said the woman, the female, is suffering from penis envy. In other words, she doesn't have a penis, and so she's suffering from an envy. This is convoluted and this is nonsense. This is total nonsense. It is the Europeans' attempt to denigrate the female, to keep her in a position where she's speechless. But when you know about the power of the black woman, when you know about the mother of creation, you see that psychological theory doesn't work to liberate black woman nor the black man. Those psychologists keep us slaves. It makes us unable to communicate. That even man to man, we can't communicate because of the ego. Yeah, man talk about man hurt them ego. Let us put the ego to death. If we kill the ego, we will still be alive. And if we kill the ego, it may make space for the birth of the spirit, which is what Garvey, Nani, Bogle, all our heroes were able to exude. The spirit of liberation that doesn't come from an ego. Metamorphosis.
Survive the hardship in you. Life never sweet like a chocolate vanilla. Train line me born, me na born in a villa. Little monkey, watch how you a talk to gorilla car. Check government by arms, get the killer. To party, a flex like a party, them in accepting presents from foreign government. But still a fool, them and a school, them and cocky, them in. Good God of Moses and Bradley the killer. Poor people fed up and we can't simmer. Can hardly survive as a blasted singer, much less a baller who is a brought to the winner. Have a right foot like a David Villa. The mother still a selling in a market. The jam rock is a precious stone. Still is far from a diamond. Take it from Iman. Even though Jamaica nights, you gotta live to save your life. After the sunset comes the darkness of the night. Sunset comes, better open up your eyes. You got to read between the lines. Living in the ghetto paradise. Jamaica spiritually irie, pretty and nice. Till I get to paradise, I mean I apologize. It's slippery and it's slidey, the government a lie. Them trickery and them buy with the chicken and the fries. When a little lie you die, you giggle and you smile. But even if you try, you couldn't live somehow with life. The river and a bunny lick up in me, them a cry, they to be buckle, them a pile up on the riverside. And then you talk about Jamaica sweet. What's sweet that we rotten your teeth. And in the streets it not nice and easy. Shut a beat, get a youth can't sleep. And then you talk about Jamaica nice. You say you're living in a paradise. But what they whistle like a Christmas breeze. Yeah, you better take my foolish advice. Even though Jamaica nice, you gotta live to save your life. After the sunset comes the darkness of the night. Open up
Yeah, you know, you have to wonder sometimes, where did the male get this concept of being superior to the female? Where did that thing come from? That whole ideology of male superiority. Is it because the males, the Europeans who present these ideologies, they have something that the woman don't have? They claim that they have an ego, and the female has none. So I can't really follow that kind of reasoning, because when my experiences with women, I realize that they have some powers. They have to have powers. Powers that the man don't even conscious of. Because remember, we pass through them, we spend months incubated within the woman. So what is it about the female now that needs to be unleashed? Because apparently there's a fear of the female by the Europeans. The African man has no fear of the African woman, because our history shows that we have resurrected her to the highest level every time we can. We put her at the peak of our social framework. And we just have to look into our ancient history before contact with the Arabs and before contact with the Europeans. The role of the female. And I'm saying there was no ego concept. There's no ego concept. It is something that has been recent, and as black man, individual black man, we have to stop and check ourselves now, We're walking around with these ideas that have been imposed upon us through church and school. And this is one of them I think we must really revisit. This thing about an ego. There is no she-go. Yeah, so I think it's more possible that the woman have a center of consciousness that operates at an even higher level of vibration than the male. Because we're talking about frequency of vibrations now, And I'm saying every individual have a center of consciousness. So how can you ignore the center of consciousness of a female? When you ignore that, you pay the price as a male. Because when that center of consciousness begins to think, you think that there's no thinking going on. Because the European idea of male superiority creates a complex. And in that complex, the female is relegated to demon, Pandora's box, Eve, Delilah. We're given a series of females. And if we're not careful, the female begin to believe without even really knowing what the truth really is all about. So, the ego is driven by insecurity. And that's why the Western world suffers so much from anxiety and depression. All of our psychological ailments based upon that inferiority, that superiority complex. Because anybody who is really superior don't have to go around telling you that they are superior, Their actions will show. When people walk around and tell you, well, I'm beautiful, Well, yes, I'm beautiful. It means them have a doubt. So whatever you keep singing and have to keep emphasizing over and over to other people because you have a doubt about it. So the man who is superior don't have to be going around telling people that I am superior to you. His actions will demonstrate whatever it is I'm trying to speak of in his thoughts. So there are things that we need to undo. We need to undo that personality theory that keeps us so disagreeable with each other. The I is real. The I is the navigator within the black man. The I is the seat of intelligence. The I is the seat of the imagination. All the powers of intellect are generated out of the I, and the I is located in the brain. There's no room for ego. So the ego must fall away. Ego must step aside. And once the ego step aside, you're left with the I You're left with the me, and then now this complexity called the self. This concept of the self, now we have to really slow down and think about it. Because do we view the self as something that we are born with, or do we develop a self as we come into society? And what is the role of the environment? Because we develop by two forces combining, or maybe more than two, but there's nature, and there's what we call nurture. What you're socialized and learn, and what you have inside of you naturally. So it's a matter of combination. Nature with nurturing. And we need to get the principles of learning. There's a whole lot of things have to be undone, I am saying, before we can begin to really demonstrate the true powers that are within. But it begins a lot with knowledge of our own makeup, our own being. Are we three-dimensional beings? Are we two-dimensional? Are we one-dimensional? What is how we make up? So the me and the I, we can establish that these are entities of reality. The self now, you need an environment to create a self. And look at the word environs. The word environs mean your surroundings. But then there is the word environmental. What does that suggest? That there's a mentality in the environs. The environment have a mentality which is created by the society. So signs and symbols, things that are put up, things that are you read, sounds that you hear, these are things that are in the environment. And they help to shape our personality. The psychiatrist will tell you that the problem in Jamaica, in most of the people, is personality problem. People are fixated, or people are centered on the me, or people are centered on themselves. What about the I? I am saying we need more concept, more centeredness on the I rather than me. Because me-centeredness, suggests that nothing else counts. The whole world revolves around your needs. I consciousness deals with the whole. Because the I will realize that the I does not stand alone. That each individual is an I consciousness. And so there's an effort to connect and to communicate with other I's. When people talk at me, them don't busy with nothing else. The self now is the complicated issue. What is the self? How do you develop the self? Can you lose yourself? Can somebody take over and control yourself? What is the self? It's something that we need to think about for our own self. What is this entity called self? When people die, what happens to the self? What happens to the I? Religion tells us about a soul and that you must save it. But I'm saying, long before we introduced a religion by either the Arabs or the Christians, we never tried to save our souls. We never had a soul to save. We were saving our families. We were saving our relationships. That's what we need to be saving. Our relationship, our families, and our money. Metamorphosis.
In flight. Oh yeah now. Sadamastagana. In a positive way. Sadamastagana. travel on my way. Temptation is too strong, but I must fight it. I'll stand up and fight. Fight for myself. Oh, yeah, now. Sadama Sagana. Let God be praised. In a positive way. Sadama Sagana. Let God be praised. In a positive way. In a positive way.
Yeah, it's the sound of Payaso, living in Babylon. So on the WhatsApp, there's no name, but the person saying that they're making reference now to the Bible. Because you know, when you talk about people and black people and society and everything, because we have been exposed to one book as a reference book of all things, everybody speaks to the Bible. They don't tell you about J.A. Rogers, World's Great Men of Color. They don't tell you about Cheek Anta Diop. They don't tell you about Chancellor Williams' Destruction of Black Civilization. They don't tell you about those things. Find out the nature of black people. Then go to the Bible. Because this book's supposed to represent truth. So here we have now a book that tells us about the beginning. As I keep saying over and over, any book you give me, and I open the book and the book starts by saying, once upon a time, I know the rest of the book is rubbish. Yeah. Any book that starts by saying, once upon a time, the rest of it is fairy tale, mythology, anything can go. It's the same thing if you start a book by saying, in the beginning. It's no different from once upon a time. It's a story that has no start. So there's all that follows it is fictional. Yeah, everything that follows once upon a time or in the beginning is fictional. There are no dates. There are no recording historical dates for these events. It happened. It just happened one time. So once upon a time means, what does once mean? Once mean one time. So it's one time upon a time. That's what once upon a time mean. What does in the beginning mean? It means a time before a time. So those, if we look at it carefully, that is a cue, that is a red flag to know, say, everything else you read after that is mumbo jumbo, hodgepodge. So somebody now is WhatsApping me and telling me that the Bible is misinterpreted in Genesis. You hear this now? It is misinterpreted. And that is how the book is constructed, for individual interpretation to lead to chaos and confusion. If you're going to talk about the truth doesn't need interpretation. Truth is clear and truth expresses itself. Once you have to interpret something, it means it don't have no specific truth. Yeah, because interpretation means each person can come up with their own conclusion. So this is why the Bible is a book of confusion. Because there's no truth if you have to interpret. But anyway, we are left with it. So this writer is saying that Genesis 2:20, speaking about Adam now and Eve, and he said people think that Adam wanted a helpmeet. It's such a thing that man is superior, but helpmeet means suitable or proper. So Adam never found a suitable partner among the animals. So he was given a woman, not an inferior helper. This is what the person is saying. But look at it this way now. Look at real life. The female in the Garden of Eden story demonstrated higher level of intelligence than Adam. She had the ability to go and reason with Satan. Yeah, so Adam shows no intellectual capacity. He shows no power to reason, but it is a female who could engage Satan with a discourse. Now, we don't know what language they was talking, whether serpent language or English or Greek, but it's a story. And the reasoning shows that the female had intelligence. So we can draw from it and interpret whatever we need to satisfy our own emotional self. But look at the personality of Adam as a male. Look at the personality characteristics and tell me if that is what the black man is all about. So, the story is a story. The characters don't fit the black personality and the black culture. It's difficult to embrace the idea of a male pushing out a female. That sounds very scientific. Genesis chapter 2, it's a different creation story. That is a story of science, of cloning, of getting into the bones and ribs of a created being to make another being. But you see, if you read Genesis chapter 1, for those who think the book has the book of truth, it speaks of a creation of man and male and female together. Males and females created to put a sense of balance to the union. Because in reality, it is the female who produces and maintains the life of the male until him can come out. So there cannot be a superiority, inferiority juxtaposition there. We're talking about complementarity. And so the Christian Bible separates the male and the female into kingdoms and have them as rivals. The African tradition speaks of the male and the female in unity, and with the female actually having a little edge. Yes, it's not about helpmeet, it's about complementarity and recognizing the role and the power of the female. That within the African Egyptian Trinity, there is a female. And in the European Christian Trinity, there is no female. You take it from there.
The pressures of a life and it tough. Now stay down, mama, time pick it up. No bother with the down, full style, strictly up, full vibes. I pick it up when the bills, them, the rent and the mortgage due. Yeah. When me chalice, when your best friends are gone and it's only you. Yeah. Like a past turn up the music.
Here we go again now. I put up a post on my Facebook page, you know, and I made a remark that most Negro women have a deeper relationship with Jesus than with their own husband or their own man. Yeah, most Negro women have a deeper relationship with Jesus than them have with their own husband or their own man. Now there are some persons, Gregory Ward says true. Not a person says sounds right. Not a woman said that is a fact. But one of my writers said that is because Jesus is always at home. And you can't have a relationship with someone who is not at home. Or can you? What a piece of explanation. So Jesus is always home because the statue and the picture of Jesus always hung up in the house. So when the women come in now, we are telling me now, you see the picture of Jesus and you don't see your husband, so you have a deeper relationship with that image. And you want to talk about black liberation. The black man will not be liberated as long as the woman hang on to Jesus, because it's him come and disrupt our family life. Can you imagine? I step into my house and I see a big picture of a white man and the woman tell me, so that is the head of my house and it's me. I sweat and I bring in the change. And when I bring in my resources, she points up on a picture and says, see the head of the house there? Insanity. Total insanity. The white woman has no Jesus in her house. The white man is in charge. When him going, him is the boss and she is the helpmeet. When the black man go home, him is not the boss. Jesus is the boss. You ever say anything like that? And we're talking about liberation. We have to wake up. We have to wake up out of the illusion that we are into. So, the liberation of black people, the woman have a whole heap to do with changing around the thing. Because when the European rush the African family, he never rush the African man, or the woman him rush, Because if you can manipulate the black woman's brain, you have her and you have her children. Because she is the one who's really the guardian of the children. So once you get she confused and have her worshipping outside of her own consciousness, the family mash up. To regain the black family, the woman have to regain herself. And she can't hold on to herself and hold on to Jesus. Can you imagine a million women chasing one man? And when a man have more than one woman, them vex. Something is insane in that type of communication and relationship. So the liberation in this heroes period, the liberation is a deep process. The females have much work to do. The female has been traumatized by the Europeans. Her brain has been put under shock when she observed the barbarity inflicted upon her black man and her black children. She has taken refuge in her own little self, and she has been hiding her children. So the young black males now growing up like very effeminate. The militancy coming out of them because the mothers shielding them. Women have to cut out them things now and begin to become on the battlefield and realize that it's a family at stake. And you and Jesus can't carry the children anywhere. That journey that you want to make with Jesus into this promised land, the land that is promised, that is real, that is tangible, is Africa. That is a real land. And the black women, them know who want to take our children or our man into this place up into the sky and causing problems. There's nowhere to go after they believe this planet named Earth, unless we're going to go back into Orion and Cyrus and those constellations which ancient Africans know about. Metamorphosis.
We are going on this red, gold and green train. Oh yes, we are going. We are going.
understanding, deep understanding about Rasta. Rasta no fire gun Rasta. Rasta no hate Rasta. Rasta no fight Rasta. I love Rasta. I love Rasta. Let's move constructively. Tell the children, tell them, so we got to move on to the future. Oh yes, the new century. There's some little girls and boys in the rain. Sha-da-da-da-da. There's some little girls and boys in the rain. Sha-da-da-da-da. Rastaman, we got to be ready. Not like Freddy, more than Freddy. Rastaman. And when we moving along, we will be always singing Jaja song. You can come along, my neighbors, come along. You can come along, my neighbors, come along.
Yeah, Metamorphosis rolling into the final 5 minutes of the program. I want to just make a serious switch from some of the things to a point that may help to bring out what it is to have a personality that is I-centered versus a personality that is me-centered and self-centered. And we turn again to the arena where the black man showing his greatest amount of prowess, sports, entertainment, and culture. These, I'm suggesting to the Jamaican government, should be the trinity upon which we build industries to liberate the entire economy of the country. So in the arena of sport, the black man has proven to be the superior being in all sports. Simone Biles in gymnastics, the marathons, the sprints, you name it, we are there. NFL, NBA, we are there. Money is in abundance. Millions and millions upon dollars flow through the hands of black men and women because of their prowess in sports and entertainment and culture. What is done with the money? What now is done with all the money garnered by these athletes and entertainers? It comes down now to them consciousness and them identity and them personality. And in the English Premier League, the top team right now in the English Premier League is a team called Liverpool. And Liverpool have two Africans in them strike force. One is called Mohamed Salah. And they don't call him Mohamed Salah, they say Mo Salah. They don't want to call the full name Mohamed because it's going to reflect his Islamic culture and it might cause all kind of issues. So them call him Mo Salah. You see the next brethren now? The next brethren is called Sadio Mane. And this Mane is a real man. This brethren is 27 years old. And Mane asks the question, why would I want 10 Ferraris and 10 gold watches and 15 of that? Him say, why would I want those things when I can help my people? This 27-year-old has never forgotten his roots and is always trying to improve the living conditions of his people in Senegal. And Sadio Mane uses his money to build infrastructure in his hometown and to provide the poor with money. Sadio Mane asks the question, why would I want 10 Ferraris and 20 diamond watches or 2 planes? What will these objects do for me and for the world? This is an individual functioning out of the I consciousness, no different from Garvey, No different from Malcolm X. No different from Martin Luther King. The I consciousness is what we need to resurrect and bring to the fore. That the resources that are acquired by these individuals will be channeled towards the collective we. Sadio Mane is an icon and is an image and should be elevated and celebrated within this point of time. So we have the images out there. We have the examples. We have the personalities. Sadio Mane has no ego. If he had an ego, his thinking would not be in that direction. He would be thinking about getting 10 cars and 5 houses and have 15 women and blah, 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 blah. That is the consciousness of the ego. We need to bury the ego and resurrect the consciousness of the I. Metamorphosis. Iman Blak on the way out.
We are going on this red, gold and green train. Oh yes, we are going. We are going.
Mane said, I was hungry and I had to work in the field. I survived hard times, played football barefooted. I did not have an education and many other things. But today, with what I win thanks to football, I can help my people. I can help my people. Message delivered. Metamorphosis.
Every nation upon creation pray.